We live in a fabulously wealthy country, and it's simply unconscionable that so many people are going without the basics. You know, there's about 200 countries in the world, and we're the 13th biggest economy. And when you look at our national wealth on a per capita basis, we're the second richest people on the planet, second only to the Swiss. So it's simply unfathomable that here in Australia, so many people wait so long for an operation at the hospital, that our schools are so under-resourced, that our government pensions and payments are really so miserly. And it's especially interesting here in Hobart right now that so many Tasmanians simply can't get a roof over their head. Frankly, it's no wonder that Tasmania's housing crisis has been on the front page of the Mercury newspaper for weeks now, when you've got more than 300 homeless people sleeping in the bush or on the streets or under bridges around the state every night. And when you've got thousands of what I'll call the hidden homeless, those who are couch surfing or staying in a friend's spare bedroom or garage, or one of the families camping in tents at the showground. And then you've got the thousands of people who are on the waiting list for public housing, and the countless people who simply can't find a rental property because there aren't enough to go around, and the great many Tasmanians who desperately want to and need to own their own home, but they simply can't break in to the property market or afford to upgrade because of the increase in property prices in Tasmania, which is making so much of our homes unaffordable. How exactly Tasmania ended up with a housing crisis right now is obviously complex, and the solutions will need to be sophisticated. For a start, we need to understand that to some degree, in southern Tasmania and around Hobart in particular, well, we're the victim of our own success. The economy is reasonably strong, and there are quite a lot of people wanting to move here and to set up their home here. That will always place pressures on accommodation. But we need to be careful to not let that blind us to the fact that this crisis is in many ways the result of a failure of public policy and governance by a series of state and federal governments. And it will be with state and federal governments that the best solutions are to be found. For example, at a state level, we need to be careful how we regulate the Airbnb market and ensure that there aren't too many rental properties being converted to short-term accommodation. We also need a much greater investment in crisis accommodation, much greater investment in public housing, and to look at all of the ways the government at the state level might hand out grants or offer tax relief in ways that encourage home ownership. The federal government, of course, has a role to play, a very important role to play. For a start, with Tasmania, it could axe the public housing debt that hangs over the state. Do you know that about $15 million of federal assistance for public housing to Tasmania goes straight back to the federal government in interest payments on previous debt? That could be axed. The federal government could also be very careful to look at ways of expanding federal programs to assist people into homes, and in particular affordable homes. And of course, we have that old issue of negative gearing and capital gains tax. Of course, federal governments need to look at ways of evening up the playing field, to stop giving investors all of the advantages. Yes, we need investors because we need rental properties, but we need it to be a level playing field because we also need to ensure homes are affordable for the rest of us, and that those who are looking to buy a home for the first time or to move into a more appropriate home, that they can afford to do so and they're not constantly competing with investors that have all the advantages.